This Protoman review is brought to you by Big Bad Toy Store. Big Bad Toy Store, the ultimate in toys.
Hey guys, this is going to be a different video from most of my other review videos. I actually want to start to do more of a series of discussion, commentary videos, rants if you will. And this is going to be one of the first ones. It actually was spawned by something that I encountered at a convention not too long ago. And it was a topic that comes up a lot, and I've discussed it a lot of times with people, and I figured, why not be the first time that I actually record it and just put it out there so people could just listen to it when they want to and show it to other friends. So this essentially is going to be a video about why boys still play with their toys while girls don't. So let's do this.
ProtoRetro.
Now, approximately like a year or a year and a half ago, I was at the Montreal Comic-Con. I was running a table with a bunch of my friends and selling stuff and everything. And next to us was a couple. The guy owns a comic book store, and his wife was there just to help him out in this crazy 3-day, 10,000 attendee convention. And at one point, she actually turned over to me and one of my colleagues and said, I just don't understand why there's so many grown men still doing this, still collecting action figures and buying comic books and all of that manner. And I turned to her and I pretty much gave her the explanation that I'm going to give you guys. And this is an explanation that I've given to a lot of people. And be sure to comment below if you have any other explanations for this too, or similar situations. But I turned to her essentially and I said that boy toys when we were growing up was vastly different than girl toys, just due to the way marketing works. Now granted, there is exceptions to the rule. Before anyone posts that, I know there is girls who have bought Transformer toys as kids and played with them, the tomboy as they would like to be called, but this is more for the general, for the mass general. So I turned to her and I said, well, growing up, girls tend to have toys of emulation. And what I mean by that exactly is that girls tend to have toys that were more emulations of adulthood. And I asked her, I'm like, just to play around with her, I was like, what toys did you have growing up? And right away she said, well, I had dolls, I had an easy bake oven. And I stopped her right there and said, an easy bake oven, Now, again, going back to what I said about the emulation thing, women's toys in general are usually emulations of stuff that they grow into. We'll break this down in counterpoints. Now, this is nothing that's misogynistic or sexist. This is just factual statements, and I'm pretty sure anyone who has a level head would understand what I'm talking about. When you have a Barbie doll, Barbie represents dress up, looking pretty, makeup, getting in your fancy pink car and going on camping trips or whatever your themed Barbie is. But Barbie represents mostly dress up and just typical fun female adventures among friends. Owning a doll, a good example was Oopsie Daisy, which was a doll that used to walk and fall over. Or there was a doll that you would feed it water and it would pee through the bottom and wet the diaper, which would change the color to fecal matter, poop, or urine, piss. And these dolls all represented emulations of stuff that when they become adults as females, that they will want to do. And the thing is, this isn't something that is forced by companies. Girls as children ask their parents that they want these toys. They see the commercials and they go, I want the doll that pees itself so I could change the diaper. And they're all emulations of that. Now going to what the colleague, the next door neighbor of my friend said, his wife, it was a matter of she had an easy bake oven. Now an easy bake oven is the precursor, if anything, to a real oven, and baking and cooking and creation of food and stuff. And it sounds so sexist when I say it, get in the kitchen. But this is stuff that is a reality of women's toys when they're growing up. And all of those toys, and I could keep going on and on, whether it be any kind of physical activity, that anyone remembers Skip It, or Pogo Ball, a lot of women's-based toys from the 80s and the 90s and the 70s were very much emulation toys of women adulthood. And when they finally do achieve adulthood, even their early teenage years, when they hit their early teenage years, now they're doing dress up. Now they're putting on makeup. Now they're starting to have the ability to use the oven themselves and do their own baking. When they reach adulthood, they finally have a baby. I mean, the most common thing that girls used to play when they were kids was they'd play house. So it sounds so simple. I'm gonna play house. But the reality is, one day they will have a house and they will be playing house for the rest of their lives as an adult, including paying a mortgage and bills and everything, a heating bill, which probably wasn't part of their house gameplay back then. But the point is that women grow into their toys. Now then, men, on the other hand, whether it be any generation, the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, our toys growing up were not emulations of adulthood. We don't grow into what we played with. Behind me right here, Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be a truck. A giant robot that fights a civil war across millions of years. Or I want to be a Jedi when I grow up. Or I want to be a super fighting robot in the year 2000X for everlasting peace. Male toys are power fantasies, whether it be X-Men, Superman, DC, Marvel, I can go on and on. But there's stuff that is very difficult for the average boy to grow into. The only exception to the rule that I could really think of is G.I. Joe, where the average American male who loved G.I. Joe as a kid could join the army. Granted, it won't be the colorful G.I. Joe army, and there probably won't be ninjas, but it's probably about as close as you're going to get. That being said, male toys don't have that jump. They don't have that platform that when they're adults, they could become these things. And as a result, as they grow up, they never achieve this. They will still continue playing video games and finding that adventure escapism through it. They will continue to be watching science fiction movies. Now granted, luckily in the past 10 years, because of the Marvel movies and mainstream movie culture, stuff has started to become more acceptable with the casuals, as I like to call it, the norms. And now stuff like seeing an X-Men movie or an Iron Man movie or stuff is now more generally accepted. Go to any Transformers Bay movie, go into the movie theater, you'll probably see just as much women as men. Which, in all honesty, if you would have told me this 20 years ago, I would have laughed at you. But that's the reality. But what I'm deviating from the original topic, though, is that growing up, men do not grow into these things. And as a result, that is why it is so common to find adults, boys, who still play with their toys, who still buy, who still collect, who still display, who still archive and read and enjoy and get lost in that fantasy, that escapism. Where women, those dreams of their childhood were achieved. They got everything that they more or less wanted as a child. And more. And more. And maybe they kind of regret that they ever wanted to do cooking. But the point being is that women were able to achieve it, men were not able to. And that is why, that is the final conclusion, in my opinion, of why boys still play with their toys. And I always tell people to tell this to your spouses and to your girlfriends who kind of question it, because it really helps them understand. It's the nostalgia of their childhood that still is present because it's not present in their real life in an adult form. I think that's also the main reason why a lot of parents, I was lucky my parents were toy collectors too, but how a lot of parents don't understand it either, because if you track their nostalgia from their childhood, there probably wasn't a lot of toys. Or usually the average father who was born in the 50s and 40s, or even the early 60s, die-cast cars was their childhood toys. And guess what? When you grow up, one day you could own a car. You don't need to own a die-cast one anymore. So that was probably the cause. They didn't have action figures like we did. You know, the late 60s brought you Mego at best. maybe army men, but again, you could join the army. So, little army men from like Toy Story. They had those in the 60s and the 50s too. But it's just that kind of stuff, that's why they don't understand in general. But if you tell them this, show them even this video, it might give them a glimpse into the understanding of everything. And well, I hope this helped you. So this is Protoman, ProtoRetro, and this has been a little look at the truths of toys and why us boys still play with them. So until then guys, take care and roll out.